Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Van Braun, and thanks to the Pontifical Academy of Science and of Social Science. Thanks. So I will now present as briefly as possible some instruments of engagement that IFAD has and how they are relevant to the development of local solutions that are based on indigenous peoples' knowledge to address the global challenges of climate change, biodiversity loss, and food and nutrition insecurity. So just a quick word on IFAD, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, for those who don't know it. It's both a specialized agency of the United Nations, but it's also an international financial institution that is really focusing only on eradicating poverty and hunger in rural areas of developing countries. So we tend to work in remote regions and in fragile situations, and this is why since the very beginning of IFAD's operation, indigenous peoples have been part of its core target group. And IFAD works basically by providing loans and grants and technical assistance. The key instruments we do have for engagement with indigenous peoples are, first of all, a policy, an Indigenous Peoples Forum, an assistance facility, so a smaller funding program, country programs, which is the core of IFAD work, and policy engagement, partnership, and knowledge. So I will go quickly through all of these aspects. So the policy, first of all, IFAD had its first policy of engagement with indigenous people in 2009, and it was updated in 2022, basically to align with all the changes that happened externally. We heard Nigel mentioning, for example, the Paris Agreement, obviously Agenda 2030, all the developments from the UNFCCC Conference of Parties. And the policy has been developed and also updated in co-leadership with the steering committee of the Indigenous Peoples Forum. There are 10 principles that guide IFAD work in the policy, across its work, and I just highlighted, let's say in the slide, some of those that are more relevant, not to the topic of climate, biodiversity, and food security, food sovereignty. So there are, there are principles that are really guiding the work on these specific themes. The first, so the policy, as I said, sort of gives the umbrella framework for all actions, but I would say the most important entry point for IFAD work with indigenous peoples is the process of the Indigenous Peoples Forum at IFAD, which is an institutionalized process of dialogue between indigenous peoples organizations, IFAD, and the governments on all the development projects that are funded by IFAD, and it's actually a mean really to promote IFAD's accountability, to monitor the implementation of the policy, and also to build and strengthen partnership with indigenous peoples organizations, and it's fully guided by a steering committee, which is composed by indigenous peoples representatives. Some of you are there here actually, or have been members of the steering committee in the past. Representative from the UN Permanent Forum, from the facility as well, and obviously looks at having a balance of gender and youth. And just to mention the last global meeting, the forum process is articulated around regional consultations and a global meeting actually happening every other year. And the last global meeting, which was in February last year, the topic was really indigenous people's climate leadership, and the focus was on how to identify community-based solutions to enhance resilience and biodiversity. So in the topics of past fora, for example, were related to food security, sustainable livelihood, also to resilience in the context of COVID. So some of the topics that have been touched so far by the previous presenters, and that are very relevant in terms of indigenous knowledge and what it can bring to the table on those issues. The Indigenous Peoples Assistance Facility is instead a small grant funding. I have to say very small compared to the demand. There is still a huge financing gap. This last year, basically in 2023, the implementation of the sixth call started. So there have been 6 calls issued so far between 2007 and 2022 for a total of more or less 200 projects approved and a bit more of 15 million mobilized. But just to give you a sense of the funding gap existing, we received something like 650 proposals, and we were able to fund a little more than 50. So the instrument is very interesting because it really builds on indigenous people culture, identity. It's fully designed and implemented by indigenous people's organizations and communities, and it's managed at regional level by 3 regional indigenous people's organizations. So it's in a sense, it's an example of direct channeling to indigenous people's organizations because the funds are managed by regional organizations at the regional level, and then who supports the capacity building and implementation process at country level. And there is also an IPAF board that sort of supervises all the process constituted by indigenous leaders. Interesting also the focus of the facility, which is normally agreed by the board. For the last call was on advancing conservation and sustainable management of biodiversity for adaptation and resilience to climate change. It also past cycle, we're also focusing on issue on indigenous people's food systems and sustainable livelihoods. So also these small projects are really a very big source of knowledge also for IFAD to integrate in the smaller, in the bigger loan programs, because these the small IPAF projects are really based and fully built on indigenous people's knowledge. The next area of work is the one related to country programs, which is obviously the core of IFAD work. And obviously not all IFAD projects are implemented in areas home to indigenous peoples, but let's say at the moment, we have approximately 40% of IFAD's ongoing project that target indigenous people, which is in numbers is like 87 loan programs in 47 countries. All these projects obviously have a process of consultation with stakeholders, including indigenous peoples, and apply as part of the social, environmental, and climate procedures. They apply the indigenous peoples plan, indigenous peoples planning framework, and free, prior, and informed consent. What is interesting in the past couple of years, thanks to some funding from SIDA, we have been able to pilot the development of free, prior, and informed consent process facilitated by indigenous experts. This in particular in project with climate change finance components, be it co-financing from the GCF, the GEF, but also where the IFAD program per se had a strong climate dimension. And it's interesting because this really focused or gave the possibility to bring solutions to climate challenges that were fully based on indigenous knowledge and indigenous experience. And I think this has been a bit the closest possible experience of co-creation that we had in the recent years. Last areas, let's say, of engagement is the one more related to policy and partnerships. Obviously, one part is supporting the direct participation of indigenous peoples in fora that are relevant to climate, to biodiversity, to food system, and so on. Obviously, I mean, we have a strong stream of collaboration with the Rome-based agency, in particular with FAO and around the coalition, that John has already detailed a lot about that. We are also, I mean, I think all the presenters so far, we are all members of the interagency support group. So let's say all those themes that we discussed this morning, I also discussed in a sort of a broader agenda. And also we engage with other actors that maybe focus their work on food system. For example, we have a small project with Slow Food on enhancing local value chain for traditional indigenous foods. And also, IFAD is less of a knowledge-based institution, but we can contribute some of the project and program experience to build knowledge and to really contribute to some of the technical guidance, guiding notes, and so on that we both develop internally or that are developed with other partners. In particular, obviously, having a strong focus on agriculture, we have experience, for example, with the neglected and underutilized species of IFAD projects that have been promoting and even building successful value chains and market access to indigenous peoples that were promoting and domesticating neglected and underutilized species. Lastly, I've built just a couple of project examples. One that address at the same time climate, biodiversity, and food and nutrition security. So one is from Peru, which is a loan program, so a large program of around 50 million that focuses on developing sustainable and profitable rural businesses around value chain forest product, but where specifically there is a group of indigenous women who began cultivating medicinal plants, so I stored the forest around the environment, and also managed to sort of register and successfully sell a brand of indigenous women medicinal plant. The other example instead is much smaller, is a $70,000 project implemented by the Provincial Women Union in Cao Bang in Vietnam, which is also focusing on the Dao indigenous peoples in the province. Again, with a focus on medicinal plant, but also dimension of ecotourism and management of especially the traditional rice type of production that again is very responsive and positive for adapting to climate change. Obviously, there are millions of other project examples, but just to give a couple. And I stop there, so we have time for a discussion. Thank you.